What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a special edition of the DGD Podcast. Got 2025 edge rusher Bryce Davis here with me today. Bryce, what's going on, my man?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You know, it's one of these things where you're prepping for the Memorial Day, right? You got Memorial Day coming around the corner. You got a long weekend.
Mhm.
A lot of football coming up. I know with Grimsley and everything, y'all getting ready for summer practices now. Spring just wrapped up.
Yep.
Never such thing as an off season, if you will.
Nah, football year round for sure.
Yeah, well, absolutely, 100%, especially in Grimsley. I know for sure.
Yeah.
Let's go and get started, man. So let the folks know if they've never heard the name Bryce Davis. Who is Bryce Davis?
2025 edge rusher, Grimsley High School. 16 years old. I'm a dual sport athlete. I play varsity football and varsity basketball at Grimsley High School. I just enjoy doing what I do. So.
Well, thanks again for letting people know, man. Listen, if you've been and you know me, you should know by now. I don't think I can reiterate that name enough. I was sitting here trying to tell people, and obviously, the 2025 class is a year ahead right now, right? You're looking heavy on 2024 recruiting, for college fans. But 2025 is right around the corner. And to kind of start with that, you've got, if I'm not mistaken, recently just got another offer, putting it to 24 offers, D1 for, if I'm not mistaken, 24 D1 offers. Let folks know some notable offers, man. Some one that stick out to you, perhaps. Let some folks know.
The offer that stick out to me the most right now is Georgia, Alabama, UNC, Duke, Clemson, and Tennessee, and the University of Florida.
Oh, the Gators, man. Good old Gators.
Yeah.
No, you heard it, man. Like, all these D1 schools, right? SEC schools. Speaking of SEC schools, I'm going to drop a fun fact here. I want you to maybe ask you a question about this. What was it like getting your first offer from Vanderbilt, by the way, before you even touched the field on varsity level? What was that like?
I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it just kind of showed me that I can really play football at the next level, and that just kept encouraging me to just work harder, keep my nose down, and grinding. So, I mean, I have a lot of good pieces around me too that helped me get that offer, and just pushed me to work harder.
Yeah, I was talking with Coach Rigsby. That's Grimsley's defensive coordinator, for those that aren't aware. It sounded like some kids were giving you some grief about it, man. What's up with that? I mean, you got your first D1 offer off JV tape. It sounded like people were giving you grief a little bit. Well, what happened there, man?
I mean, I understood it. I mean, I never seen people really get off from JV. I mean, there's probably some jealousy behind it too. So, I mean, just it kind of comes with it. So I didn't say too much. I knew I had to work hard and prove myself the next year.
Absolutely. Now, like I said, you got 24 offers. Now, I want to maybe see if this question resonates to you. At what point, like, was there a specific offer? Was there a specific time when you realized that this is serious? Like, this is getting serious. I have a legit shot to play at the next level and at a high level at that. Was there any point in time when that really stood out to you, or has it?
It would probably have been that Georgia offer, my fourth offer. I mean, I knew I had connections with Jamal committing there too, but just getting that offer from the national champions, it was just like, wow, like I can really do this. And they don't offer too many players, so it was just a great feeling.
Well, especially with, I mean, you look at, right, I mean, because if I'm not mistaken, like you said, they were your fourth offer. It went Vanderbilt, West Virginia, Duke, and then Georgia. And I think Georgia offered you back in October of last year, I think it was.
Yes, sir.
So it's like, that was right around the time midseason. I remember, me personally, I remember watching your midseason highlights, and I was like, oh, my man, he's about to get offers. Like, just, it's about to blow up. Like, legitimately about to blow up. It's like, I was watching it, and it's just like, I mean, I watch the Grimsley games every week, but it's just one of these things where, watching other folks on the field and watching everything, sometimes little things like that slip up and go past you. But then you put the highlights on, I'm like, oh, man. Yeah. And at that point, I kind of knew. And then I wouldn't even think maybe a few weeks later, it's just like, boom, Georgia offer. And I was just like, uh-oh. And then next thing you know, boom, and boom, and boom. And it's just like, being around this area, right? I think it's one of these things where it's awesome to see kids succeed and get that kind of level of exposure, and obviously offers as well. Knowing that you can play at the next level, man, it's fun to see. Now, obviously, you got the Georgia offer. Have you taken any visits anywhere yet? Like, have you went to see any campuses, things like that so far?
Yes, sir. I've been to Clemson, Tennessee, UNC, NC State, and Duke. So.
Yeah, I was about to say I figured you'd have. I know, looking at like stuff, in state schools they're obviously a little bit easier to go to, right? It doesn't take an hour to get there, right? Knowing our area, but going to Tennessee and these other schools out of state, that's big time right there, right? So. And I know, are there any other plans? I know obviously with the summer coming up, you've got summer practices and things like that, but do you have any plans for the summer on anything or no?
Yes, sir. I have plans on going to Clemson again, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. So, and obviously South Carolina too. South Carolina.
Well, yeah, I know talking beforehand, Grimsley's going down to South Carolina and camping as a team. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe tell us a little bit what that means, like what that's going to be like, or what your expectations for that are?
A bunch of competition. It'll be a bunch of high schools down there doing the offensive line and a defensive line camp. So I'm looking forward to the competition that we'll be playing and just getting better. And I'm gonna make a visit out of it as well too. So
I mean, that's a good idea to sit there and do that. Obviously, kind of being on the DGD podcast, obviously we do like to bring exposure to local high school kids, but we're also a Georgia podcast. So I got to ask you a Georgia question.
Yeah.
Coach Uzo Duribe is leading up your recruitment, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, sir.
What's that experience been with Coach Uzo?
Oh yeah, he's great. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. When he came to our practice, I learned from him. I asked for some advice on how to take on some blocks and things like that. And he told me, and I used it, and it really helped. So, I mean, just continue to build a relationship with him. It's just been amazing. He's a great dude. Yeah,
I figured seeing these college coaches and stuff, obviously I've never been at that level or anything, but getting tips to better your game, right? Because, I mean, watching last season, for me, one of the things that stood out, ability to pass rush, right? I think when you look at college football and NFL all the way up, right, pass rushers are coveted, and the ability to get to the quarterback is crucial, especially in all levels of the game now. I'm trying to remember your stat line for last year as a season. I think you had like 12 sacks or something like that. Mm-hmm. Was it like 27 tackle for losses? I mean, like you basically led a ton of defensive categories, right? But at the same time, now looking forward to this season, right? Like, you said Jamal was there, which obviously he's at Georgia now. Looking behind you, Khalil Simpson's another guy that people might not know of, but he's off to college now too. What are your expectations? What are your goals for this upcoming season at Grimsley this season?
Just trying to have more of a leader role. I mean, last year it was kind of I'm trying to make plays. I'm gonna let Stimp. I'm gonna let Jamal. I'm gonna let the seniors kind of lead us. I'm gonna do my job and I'm gonna make my plays. But now I got to be more vocal on the defense and just try to get everybody in line as well. So,
do you expect other teams to really focus on you more as well? How do you plan on handling that as well? I mean, listen, you're a fringe 5-star, right? And I don't necessarily look at rankings 100% like that, but I know people will, and especially high school kids will look at that. Mm-hmm. So coaches and things, coaches and programs will look to basically try to game plan you out of the game. What's your goals on how to combat that?
I mean, just like I said, be a leader. I mean, the defense that we have right now it's gonna be good for sure. We got a bunch of blitzes, so it's gonna allow other guys to make plays too. And I understand I'll be getting double teamed a lot, and so just not face the adversity, still be a leader, and just play my role even if I'm not making that play. So,
yeah, I mean, I think what a lot of people can learn is you don't have to make the tackle to impact the play.
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, right? I mean, it could be as simple as, you taking on a double team and opening up a lane for maybe, AJ Hill, right? Or one of the linebackers to come in and plug a gap that you took up a double team with and go from there. So, looking forward to seeing what Grimsley looks like this season, because it is going to be a kind of a revamped defense as well, right? Losing Jamal and Khalil it's big pieces to fill, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like. But kind of want to get back to the college thing, man. You look at, like you said, the 24 offers and stuff like that. Are there any offers that are really like just kind of still struck about getting? I know you mentioned that Georgia was kind of one of your better offers, more notable ones. Were there any other ones that kind of you're like, wow, this is real? I really just got offered.
Notre Dame. I can't believe I forgot about Notre. They're really high on my list as well. And Clemson, I haven't got it. They're interested in me right now, but they don't really offer until your junior year. But Clemson, just talking to Coach Hall, Coach Dabo, when I was over there, it was just it was great. And then Alabama, of course, when I called them and got that offer, it was like Alabama's almost like college football. When you think of college football, Alabama.
Yeah, I was about to say, you think Alabama when you think college football for sure.
Yeah, so just those schools, it just really like opened my head. And I'm like, okay, I could play college football. So,
are there any schools that you want to hear from? Maybe you're waiting maybe for waiting for that call to kind of see what's going on with Bryce Davis. Are there any schools that are sticking out to you? They're like, man, I want them to give me a call, see what's up.
I mean, the last school would probably be LSU for sure.
Okay.
But other than that, I'm just focused on the schools I have now and building relationships right now. So,
like I said, 2025 is still some time, right? So I think right now it's probably a key part of the relationship building process, really. I got a question for you from one of our followers. What's the most intriguing part of your recruiting process?
Just, I don't know, just the environment, like just going to these different games and like seeing that college football is fun and all, but it's really a business. Like, just like realizing that, and just I seeing these older guys, like after the games, you go back into the locker rooms, things like that. It's just really like mind blowing that I'm really here, and like, so that would probably be a big part of it.
Now, you mentioned you played basketball as well. Do you see any things from basketball translating over, into your game in football? Do you see anything transferring over?
For sure. That the jab step, getting the post, switch feet, your jab step. I mean, I use that same move. That's like go-to pass rush move. Jab step inside, try to get on the edge. So, I mean, football and basketball, me playing in the post, it kind of goes hand in hand. The footwork, obviously you're using different muscles, but that footwork is going to carry over to football for sure.
Yeah, it's fun to listen. And I made this mistake when I was in high school. I'm not going to show my age, but I thought it was cool to specialize. And if you have a kid or if you're a high school athlete, listen to this. Make sure you're not specializing, because there's a lot of things that can transfer over to other sports, or the one that you're looking forward to trying to go and proceed the most. So just take that note for anyone that needs to hear it. That's enough about my old self. But but anyway, you sit there, you look at it. You talked about your summer plans, things like that. Are there any? Let's see, how can I explain this? Are there any? I know you said you're looking at Georgia. What are you looking forward to when you go to visit these campuses for the first time? What are you looking for specifically on a visit?
I mean, obviously a great relationship with the coaches, but that can change. I've realized coaches change, like all of that changes. So I'm just trying to fall in love with the environment, fall in love with that school. Like, I know the transfer portal is a big thing in college football, but I'm not really looking into that. Like, if I commit to a school, that's what I'm going to be for the next 4 years, forever so long. So it's just falling in love with the place, building a good relationship with the coaches, and just that scheme is really important too, how they'll use me, things like that. So,
I mean, I think with what you're saying, it makes sense that you need to look into, coaching. A lot of things that people don't pay attention to, coaching stability, right? I think that matters as well. If you're looking to commit to the school, somehow people can take and, use coaching stability as a weapon either for or against. But, you look at Coach Uzo, you've mentioned a couple of these coaches. Are there any coaches that are sticking out to you, like just, that have that chemistry and the relationship with? Are there any ones that are sticking out to you the most?
Coach Uzo, Coach Hall, Coach Bauer. Those are three coaches I probably have the best relationship with right now. And so,
yeah. Are there any? Now you don't have to answer this, but I'm going to do this. Are there any schools that are above the others by chance? I mean, like I said, I know there's a lot. I just didn't know if there's any ones that are up there and going to have to. Other schools are going to have to work to get to.
Right now, is Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Duke. So those probably like schools are gonna have to catch up. So
now, so living in North Carolina, man, we're born into a basketball school, right? Basketball state. So I'm a Duke fan as well. So it's interesting that you said Duke out of those schools when generally people think UNC football. They don't really think Duke football. What about now? I mean, I know a little bit about Duke football with Coach Elko and what they're doing there, and what he did last season. Yeah. And what they're doing recruiting wise in the areas, right? They're working to lock down the state. I've seen it. What is it about Duke that stood out there? Because you start to hear the normal names, right? You got your Georgia, Notre Dame, Alabama. Notre Dame's also recruiting the state really well too. Yeah. But what about Duke stood out to you that puts them up there with the other schools that I listed? What's special about Duke?
They jumped on me quick, so that was I pictured Duke as like my really first offer. So I mean, and I've been there a couple of times. I really like the place. Coach Elko, he's built a different environment there too as well. So, and they won a decent amount of games last year too.
They won 8 games.
Yeah.
They won 8 games, and it wasn't like they were. I mean, some of them were close, but they could have actually. I don't know how many people actually keep up with Duke football, but the Duke UNC game actually came down to a late play that got UNC ahead of them. Yeah. They all but beat North Carolina as well. So, obviously it's 1 year. I want to see some I just want to see some sustained success from them before I feel like they could become a legit contender in the ACC, right? But I mean, the trajectory is there, right? Yeah. I think that's something that people need to keep an eye out for. Just if you're a Georgia fan listening to this, Georgia's Georgia. However, like Duke is onto something in the state, guys. I'm telling you that. Like it sounds crazy, but it's not. So I want to question about your game, man. One of the things that stood out to me, and I'm going to go back a little bit when Jamal kind of put me on to you at first when I was talking with Jamal. And so I went and watched your freshman tape because I wanted to see why you got that offer from Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And when I did as a freshman, what I realized was, the pass rush is there. But one of the things that you did, I don't even know. I mean, you probably know you did it, but you set the edge extremely well, especially as a freshman. And I feel like as an edge rusher, people look at pass rushers as one thing, but it also takes setting the edge to succeed as well on the edge. How has that played into your game as well? Because obviously we know pass rush is crucial, but setting the edge, what's that? I mean, why do you put so much of an emphasis on setting the edge?
I mean, you have to stop the run to be able to pass rush. So, I mean, I think that's what sets me apart in my game as well. A lot of the guys I watch film on, like in my class in 2024, they'll just get after the quarterback. They don't set the edge as well. So I try to do both. Those are the two pieces I try to master in my game for sure. So, I mean, I think I do a pretty good job of that as well. So,
yeah, I mean, one of the things, I don't think people really understand, like long arming people, right, to set the edge that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you're 6'4", so like long arms, right? It's easy for you to kind of create that separation, long arming, and then shedding the block. But this past season was your first year on varsity, and one game that stood out to me was second game against Reagan.
Yeah.
And I talked to you earlier about that. I was like, I want to see what that's going to look like. That was going to be, to me, I was like, that's the big telltale.
Yeah.
But aside from me, what game was your favorite game last year?
Oh, the Reagan game for sure. No doubt about it. It was the Reagan game. I mean, I knew who I was going against. I knew they were going to run the ball behind him. So, I mean, it was just like I got to drop my nuts that game pretty much. I'm a sophomore. He's a senior, but it's just time for me. That's a game where I can prove myself. And I just have fun.
If you're unfamiliar with this game, that was the game that Bryce went up against Sam Pendleton. Sam Pendleton at the time was 4-star Notre Dame commit. He's now up there in Notre Dame as a freshman. I don't know if he's an early enrollee or was he a summer enrollee, but regardless, he's there at Notre Dame now. There's also another game that was interesting to me. The Northern Guilford game, and that was the game, if I'm not mistaken, you went out for a little bit.
Yeah.
With your foot injury. And that was kind of one of those things where it's like, when that happened, I wanted to see how you bounced back. Because the Northern Guilford game, for those that aren't familiar, was Grimsley's last regular season game. When y'all won that game, secured the conference, and then opened up the playoffs, right? And that's opened up at home and everything like that. It was interesting to see how you bounced back and kind of persevered through that, because it was so late in the season. Yeah. And we were sitting there wondering what it was going to look like in the playoffs. Then obviously you had Northern Guilford, but then you go to I think it was a 3rd round playoff game against Huff. Yeah. It was ridiculous. Best high school game I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
Yeah. Sure.
But just watching that Reagan game, like you said, I think I'm with you on that one. To me, that was the breakout game that you needed. And I think, honestly, when you look at if you go look at Bryce's season, midseason highlights from last season, that game stood out. Yeah. And at that point, when I saw the midseason, I was like, uh-oh. That, again, going back to what I was saying earlier about that, that's when you started to see offer after offer. And I think you went on like a flurry of 5-10 offers in a week.
Yeah, it was crazy. Winter. Yeah, it was crazy.
That winter was nuts. It was like December came around. It was just like just offer after offer after offer. And I was like, all right. And then, so it's one of those things. Last question. What is your why when it comes to playing football? What's your why?
I mean, right now it's just be the greatest is what I do. Like, to be honest, it's my parents preached to me, be a leader, not a follower, things like that. So I'm just trying to take anything I do in life and just be great at it. It doesn't even have to be football. It can be in the classroom. My why is to be great at anything I do. And I want to pursue happiness pretty much. So that's my why.
There you go. Look, Bryce, I didn't realize we've been talking for about 25 minutes, but it was an honor to talk to you, kind of pick your brain a little bit. Kind of get some updates on the recruiting cycle and process for you. Let people know, man, where they can follow you if they're choosing to do so.
Instagram, the Bryce Davis _ Twitter is Bryce Davis 45. So
what we'll do is we'll put this up and we'll make sure you have the access to follow him. If you need graphics or anything like that, visuals for you, we'll get that set up for you. But anyways, man, it was a pleasure to have you on. I was looking forward to doing this again sometime.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, that was what we got. 4-star Bryce Davis right there at Grimsley High School. Stay tuned. We might do another Grimsley folk. I got some folks up in Grimsley. Listen, Grimsley, if you're not familiar with North Carolina football, Grimsley's a powerhouse when it comes to D1 talent. Is all I'm going to say. But with that being said, folks, that's all we got for today. Stick around. Make sure to like, subscribe if you like what you heard. Again, Bryce, thanks for coming on, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.